Welcome back to my channel, everyone. My name's Lillian and I'm an accent coach for non-native speakers of English. Last week, I introduced a new series that I'll be working on for all you English learners out there. We'll be practicing spoken English by analyzing conversation scenes from popular American TV shows. Today, we'll get back to The Office, but before we do, go ahead and hit that like button as well as subscribe to my channel for more videos like this one, and let's get started. In this scene, Jim the salesman starts off mid-conversation with a client on the phone. He gets distracted by his coworker Dwight, who is noisily messing around with the documents and files that are overlapping both of their desks. You can really see their two differing personalities play out here, as well as the arguments that pop up as a result. Let's take a moment to listen to it together.
Mr. Davis, let me call you right back. Yeah, something just came up. 2 minutes. Thank you very much. Dwight, what are you doing?
What?
What are you doing?
To start, because Jim gets so distracted by his coworker Dwight, he interjects his client by saying, Mr. Davis, let me call you right back, in order to politely inform him that he needs to address something at his office immediately. Because this is short, quick dialogue, there are a lot of stressed words here, as you can see in bold. Jim does place a high pitch on le, which is part of the phrasal reduction LEMMEE, and I suspect it's because he's trying to sound as polite as possible to break off the conversation.
Mr. Davis, let me call you right back.
A higher pitch like this can give off an amicable or an innocent tone of voice, especially with that phrasal reduction LEMMEE, which we'll talk about in a moment. We can use a high pitch to make polite inquiries or necessary interjections, as Jim did so here. Another example would be to say, let me think on that, if you didn't want to give a direct answer to somebody's suggestion or proposal. By using a higher pitch, you might sound a little bit culturally nicer than if you started off with a low pitch. Before moving on, let's just look at some of those details. There's a schwa R in Mr., a stopped T in right in order to smoothly transition to the word back, and the T in let gets dropped completely in the phrasal reduction LEMMEE, which links both let and me together. Now that phrasal reduction LEMMEE is an extremely common one, regardless of circumstance, business or casual. A natural English speaker oftentimes won't even pick up on it as a reduction, simply because it fits so well into the rhythm of the overall sentence and gives stressed emphasis to the more important words. Try it out yourself. LEMMEE. LEMMEE. And while you're at it, try it out with other short statements as well. Let me know. Let me see. Let me write that down. Now try to say that second line by yourself, trying to match the natural rhythm of Jim's spoken English. Let me call you right back. Let me call you right back.
Mr. Davis, let me call you right back.
There's just one more thing I want to add here. You may have noticed that while we start with a high pitch on LEMMEE, the pitch slides to a lower one for the rest of the sentence. Let me call you right back, even though the words right and back are both stressed. This is because in English statements, we typically start off at higher pitches and slide down to lower pitches at the end of the statement. Listen again.
Mr. Davis, let me call you right back.
In this next part of Jim's quick dialogue with Mr. Davis, he says, yeah, something just came up, which is another way of saying that he's been interrupted by something needing his attention at the office. We use this phrase a lot, mainly as an excuse for something that is either personal or that we don't want the listener to know about. For example, if we had a meeting at 2 p.m. but a personal emergency popped up, then we could say to the person we're meeting with that something just came up and I'm going to have to postpone our meeting. On the other hand, what if we're just running late? Maybe we forgot about the meeting or maybe we're stuck in traffic, but we don't want the other person to know that. Then we could also use that same phrase. Something just came up and we're going to have to reschedule. While this second situation is common, it happens to everybody once or twice, I actually don't recommend using it over and over again because then you might come across as unreliable.
Yeah, something just came up. 2 minutes.
But let's talk about this word something and how Jim uses it.
Something just.
He really reduces it here, completely dropping the TH sound, as well as the final G, and links the two syllables together with a glottal stop of air, just like the one we use in uh-oh or mountain. Do you hear that stop of air? He says something, not some. Something. This is a tough one if you're not used to reductions, so give yourself some time and patience to test it out. Jim uses this reduction as an indication of urgency, stressing the phrasal verb came up. He doesn't have the time to articulate all the words perfectly.
Yeah, something just came up.
In this same line, there's a dropped T at the end of just, which again is very common with this word, as well as the word linking within the phrasal verb came up. Instead of pronouncing them as separate words, we pause on the vowel K and bring the M over to the short U sound on up. So think of it as came up instead of came up. Came up, came up.
Came up, came up, came up.
Now try that first line by yourself. Yeah, something just came up. Just came up. Something just came up.
Yeah, something just came up.
In this case, we word link for two reasons. First, came up is an example of a phrasal verb, that is, a verb that has a preposition added to it to create a unique definition of that verb. When something comes up, it comes into existence unexpectedly. Because the verb and preposition go together to create one meaning, we want to link them closely together. Secondly, we link these words together because in English, we don't like to end a word on a consonant sound if there's a vowel sound after it. We like our words to flow together, so if we're able to link a consonant at the end of a word to a vowel sound that starts the next word, we will almost always link those two words together. Try listening for this from now on. If you hear or see a word in the middle of a sentence start with a vowel sound, does the preceding word get linked to it? It does with came up, as well as other phrasal verbs like call out, give away, or pick up. Okay, now back to this last line here. Notice the high pitch is on the stressed words to and thank, denoting importance to those two words. The rhythm is pretty symmetrical for thank you very much. Da 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 da, da 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 da. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Notice also how closely tied thank and you are. We don't release that K at the end of thank. Instead, we reduce and attach it to the word you, so that it sounds like you, you. So instead of saying thank you, we'll say thank you, thank you. I also just want to point out this little symbol. It represents the NG sound, that is created in the back of your mouth. Thang. The tip of your tongue should be down with this sound. Thank you. Once you've got that down, you should be able to match the whole rhythm.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
For this next part, you can hear in Jim's voice that he's kind of annoyed at his coworker Dwight's disruption. I love this part of the scene because you get to hear Jim say, "What are you doing?" in two different ways. The first time pretty fast, and the second time slower and more stressed.
Dwight, what are you doing?
What?
What are you doing?
So the first main thing that stands out is the difference in stress here. Wow. When Jim doesn't stress the word what in the first line, the vowel turns into a schwa, whereas when both Jim and Dwight stress the word what in the second and third line, the vowel retains the original length and clarity of a short U sound.
What are you doing?
What?
What are you doing?
This is a perfect example of how there are some words that can be pronounced with true vowel clarity when stressed, and with a schwa when unstressed. Notice the difference in vowel length between what and what. What, what. The same thing happens with these articles. We most often pronounce them with schwa sounds, as in, "I'd like a latte, please," or "I'd like the latte, please." But if sometimes we hesitate and give them stress, we might pronounce them as long A or long E, as in, "I'd like a latte, please," or "I'd like the latte, please." It all depends on whether they're stressed or unstressed. Okay, now in looking at this first line, Jim addresses Dwight rather quickly at a low pitch. Dwight, Dwight.
Dwight.
And because he's feeling annoyed, he impatiently asks, "What are you doing?" with a reduction of the T turning into a flap T, as well as a short U and R sounds turning into a schwa and a schwa R, respectively. The rhythm is da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. What are you, what are you, what are you?
What are you?
Try it out yourself. There's a tiny bit of stress on "wa" and a little bit more stress on "doing." Da-da-da-da-da. What are you doing? If you can learn just this one little phrasal reduction, I guarantee it'll help you with everyday questions like, "What are you thinking?" or "What are you planning?" So I encourage you to practice it a few more times before moving on. Here are some more examples. What are you practicing? What are you feeling? What are you learning? What are you? Okay, now Dwight gives a clear, articulate pronunciation of what with a true short U vowel, and then we have Jim repeat his question in a more stressed manner, slowing down particularly around the words what and doing.
What?
What are you doing?
Notice how instead of linking the words what and are like we'd normally do, water, he stops the T with a glottal stop of air to add emphasis to that word what.
What are you?
This added emphasis also reveals Jim's annoyed tone. He's not repeating himself in order to help Dwight understand his question. He's repeating himself in an exaggerated way to express his annoyance. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
This is a great example of how stress can be used to indicate your feelings about something. Listen to how I pronounce this question in 2 different ways and think about how the stress pattern changes its meaning. Can you whistle? Can you whistle? In the first version, I asked the question with a pretty normal stress pattern. But in the second example, by giving stress to the word can, I indicated that I had a little bit of a doubt in my voice, or I don't know if you actually can whistle. And that's how stress can really show your feelings about something. Okay, now we've covered most of it, and I'd like you to listen to this last part one more time before practicing it all yourself. Remember to stress the words what and doing in the last line. The verb are still remains a schwa R sound though. What.
Dwight, what are you doing?
What?
What are you doing?
And that's it for the first part of this conversation breakdown. Stay tuned for next week's video where you'll get to see where the scene goes as well as see how much stress impacts each character's lines. Let me know in the comments down below what you liked about this video, as well as subscribe to my channel for more uploads like this one. As always, best wishes practicing your American accent.